All right, welcome back to the new home of AFA Today. We've moved our studios. Not a lot of people knew this before, but if you were watching on the American Family Channel, the place where we were at was actually not in Manhattan. We were in suburban Jersey, and we just had a decal on the window that made it look like we are in Lower Manhattan. Now we're in the belly of the beast. We're in the shadow of the World Trade Center. We're right next door to the cemetery at Trinity Church, and in a historic place. If you ever do any study about what happened on Manhattan Island and the fact that our the historical events that ran through here, just incredible, and to know that it's the world's most important city now. It's still an amazing and wonderful thing. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for being here. Kevin McCullough, always glad to have you, obliterating confusion, amplifying truth, and pursuing clarity. That's what we want to do. Obliterate confusion, amplify truth, pursue clarity. Every single day. It's a pretty simple process. We're talking about this story from Ohio in which a state legislator there has said that he wants to put everyone under investigation that homeschools. He wants all homeschoolers to be investigated, all homeschoolers to be checked out by social services to see if they, in fact, should be allowed to homeschool at their home. I've said this is a tricky McTricksterville. That's what they think this is. Oh, we're so witty. We're gonna bust up homeschooling by getting. Well, if this passes the Ohio legislature, shame on Ohioans for not calling their legislators and busting it up right away. Because after all, if you're in Ohio, they work for you. They work for you. So this guy needs to be told he's a Joker McJokester and send him on his way. Get him out of there. You, taxpayer in Ohio voter, you have the opportunity to set the tone for your state and not let this monkey business happen. But it is up to you. You have to be the one that takes the bull by the horns. But at the end of the day, this guy may say, try to get it passed. And if he does, there'll be some other genius person in another state that'll try to take up the same cause and try to replicate this into a movement. Finally, we're going to hold homeschoolers accountable to the proper standards. Yeah, like what standards would those be? Geniuses? Like what Mayor Bloomberg did this year? We have very good news here in Manhattan, in the city of New York, in the 5 boroughs. We are up to a 66% graduation rate. If homeschool families were only graduating 66% of their students, I might believe that you have a case to be made that maybe some state regulation should be involved. When graduation rates in homeschools are near 100%, go fish that pond somewhere else. It's not working here. 888-589-8840. Leave the single most successful educational system in America alone. It doesn't need your help. Doesn't need any help at all. Let the parents that are doing it do it. They're doing just fine. Let's go to the phones. Ellen is calling from Texas. Ellen, thank you for your patience. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Hi.
Hi. I was just wanting to say I don't think you should try to fix something that's not broken. They haven't proven that there's any really problem. And that's the Democrats' way, is to set up a problem and then find a solution, even though there's not a problem. And to me, an unfounded fear is a phobia. So if they have a phobia against homeschoolers, that's a problem for them and not for the homeschoolers.
And maybe they should meet some. Maybe they should spend some time with some and see that they're not weird, scary, freaky people.
Well, there's studies out, and it already shows that homeschoolers do better than public schools. And one of the things about the public schools is that they get paid for every student that's in that class, and if they can get more kids in that class, then the school district gets paid more. So. Yep.
No, there's definitely a economically based component for shuffling those kids from one level to the next, and you're right. I don't know that the best interest of the child is really taken into play. I've thought this for a long time. I don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all education program for anyone. And here's the other thing. Mom, Dad, if you're listening, it really doesn't matter if you homeschool or send your kids to a church school or a parochial school or a private school or a charter school or a public school. Wherever you send them to school, you're still the primary educator in their life. And I don't think that can be reemphasized enough, because I think a lot of parents go, well, they're in school, so it's all good. Actually, they still need you to weigh in on what they're learning to help guide them, especially if they're in public schools or schools that may have, if you come from a evangelical household and you're sending your kid to a Catholic school, you need to work through the theological differences. Now, no doubt about it, they're probably getting a much better education in the Catholic school than they would be in the local public school. But at the end of the day, if you're not wanting them to learn that bit of theology that way, then you need to, guide them. You need to have that dialogue that's going on all the time, where you're like, this is what we believe and this is why. Which means you have to know why you believe what you believe, which means you have to think through the issues of your life, which means you have to be on the offensive against confusion. You got to obliterate it at every turn. And what do you got to do? You got to amplify truth. And who helps you do that? Your homie McCullough. That's what this is about. Every day. A couple of times a day. I'm just asking for 60 minutes at a time, but plug in. Consistently train yourself to obliterate confusion, to amplify truth, and to pursue clarity. You will be a better parent because you do that. Not to mention a spouse and citizen and voter and everything else. 888-589-8840. All right, let's go to Gabe in North Carolina. Gabe, thank you for your patience. You've been holding quite a while. I appreciate you being there.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Sure thing.
Hey, I just wanted to say, I think that the right to homeschool our children is a God-given right, not from the state or the government. I think God gives us that right in Deuteronomy. And secondly, I don't think that so much of them wanting to look at the home so much as it is them wanting to control the curriculum. I think it's awful funny how it comes right at the time Common Core is starting to get implemented. So I think it has something to do with that. I'm sure of it. I'll hang up with a comment.
I don't think you're wrong. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Kevin.
I think you're onto something, and I appreciate Gabe you connecting some dots, because there's this new emphasis to try to equal out all these, and it's all outcomes. It's not even based on standards. I started to say it's all about equal standards. It's not. They want outcomes to be the same, and sameness is not the same as equality. Values aren't universally applicable. There are differences in values. Some people believe God exists. Some people believe that matters. Some people believe that because God exists, it has relevance to our lives. And if you're adopting a completely godless framework for your educational system, and that's such a thought as that is a complete unacceptable basis for your education, well, your kids are going to get different outcomes. They're going to get different results. They are going to have a different worldview. They're going to adopt a different decision-making process to every problem they face. And friends, that's the only thing you're really supposed to do as a parent. You're supposed to teach them how to think. You're supposed to teach them how to solve problems and to discern. That is the job of the parent, not of the educator, not of the pastor, not of the athletic coach. The job of the parent. And it's not to feed them. It's not to take them to Taco Bell every time they say, "Oh, Mom, I'm so hungry." Although I wish my mom had taken me to Taco Bell a little more. I mean, that would have been a lot of fun. But she didn't. She made me read things like in the summertime. We had reading time every day. And you know what? It benefited me. It brought to life my brain, my imagination, the ability to think and to construct and to problem solve. And those are the things that we're missing in the culture today. I ask, some of you know that I run a media company here in New York. And I have employees, and they range in skill level and ability and life interests and everything else. And I ask them all the time, what do I pay you for? And I may ask an audio engineer that question. What do I pay you for? And he may be tempted to say, well, you pay me to make sure the levels are all even and so that the sound sounds. No, I don't pay you for that. I'll turn to my TV guy. What do I pay you for? Well, you pay me to put the lower thirds on the screen. And no, I don't pay you for that. I'll turn to the phone screen. What do I pay you for? Oh, I'm supposed to prepare the phone calls for your show. No. That's not your job. Your job is to think and to solve problems. That's it. Your job is to think and to solve problems. And you apply that to the area that, yes, I've hired you for. But it's not the routine. Friends, we can't walk through life being checked out. Just like, okay, I'm going to put it in autopilot. It doesn't work that way. If we do for even a little while, like the church largely did in the 70s, we turn around and go, how come the porn industry exploded in the middle of everything? When did that happen? How come there's 4-letter words on every show on television now? And how come there's never a positive mention of someone being a father on television? Where'd all this come from? Because Christians weren't obliterating confusion and amplifying truth and pursuing clarity and living in the culture the way they should. We withdrew. We isolated. We said, okay, we're going to live over here in our corner, and we're never going to touch you sinners. Well, that's not what Jesus did. Jesus went where the sinners were, and he helped them understand their condition, and then he showed them the solution. And friends, that's what we need to be doing today, every day. But number one, we don't accept what the culture says. We pass it through the grid of truth, and if it doesn't fit the bill, that's it. We dismiss it. Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. Let's take another couple of calls. Fran is in North Carolina. Fran, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. What's your thoughts here?
Kevin, glad you're with us. Let's take another couple of calls.
Hello, Fran.
Hey,
Fran.
Kevin. My
Hi.
homie. Amen. Amen, brother. Praise the Lord. Appreciate you taking my call. My point was social services needs to be monitored. They're the ones that need to be looked, especially after that incident in Union County. I'm in the Hickory area, but the Union County social services director has adopted children, and that little boy was found with a chicken around his neck. And they claim they were homeschooling. They're the ones that need to be monitored. The father was working at the emergency room in the hospital, and the mother was the director of social services. And the children, she says, I'm homeschooling the kids. They're being homeschooled. But nobody was homeschooling them.
But they were working full-time.
And they were working full-time. I think the father that was at the emergency room, emergency room nurse, was working third shift. And then the mother was working first shift for social services, and she was a director. And then the neighbor saw the kid with the chicken around his neck, and they called it in. And now they're both in jail with no bail. But yet, I guess she said, since she was a director of social services, she's okay, she's a director. But she had dropped children for...
Sorry, Fran. The story sounds interesting, but one part has me puzzled. How does a child put a chicken around its neck?
I'm sorry. Yes, that's exactly right. Either the man did it or the woman did it.
Now, how do you physically get a chicken around a neck? That's what I don't understand.
Well, there was a dead chicken on a rope. Sorry.
That's just disgusting.
It is.
And this is my lunch hour, Fran. Why did we bring? I'm just kidding. Yeah. Okay.
I know you.
But see, and thank you for the call. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Social services has in many states acted as though it's this untouchable. You can't say anything about us. And in reality, they're just people like everybody else is. They're sinners just like you and I are. They're prone to wander. Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. If in fact we love him, then that's a much bigger question for the days in which we live. Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. Let's talk to who's left? Dee in Louisiana. Hi, Dee. Welcome. You're on AFA Today on AFR Talk. Glad you're here.
Yes, sir. What I want to make a point is I work at a place that's very successful, and it has other facilities in other states. And we have people that come to our facility to see what we're doing right because we are so successful. And that's just in a corporate sense. Why not look at this group of people who homeschool, which I was a homeschooler. I did it for 16-plus years. And my kids always scored 2-3 grade levels above their grade. Why not look at what they're doing? Most of these parents are not teacher certified. I doubt many of them are even college educated, but yet they're knocking the socks off of, the educational standards, so to speak, that are in place. And it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that they don't look and say, well, what are they doing? Because whatever it is they're doing, these kids are excelling.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about homeschool, I agree with you, Dee. First of all, great observations all the way around. Interesting thing about homeschooling is that the product of what they're producing. Okay, so you've got lower to middle income families all across the country that are homeschooling their kids. And you have some that are affluent as well, but affluent families generally tend to opt for paid education. So if they can get them into a really good school and they have the money to do it, they do that. But homeschooling has been a tremendous equalizer for lower and middle class families all across America. And guess what? Those families then turn around and have kids that become doctors and jet pilots and all kinds of things that require high levels of math and science and all kinds of things because they do really well on all those things. Meanwhile, the thing that public officials, politicians continue to tout as the source for educational victory, which is the public school system, they're lucky if kids can read when they graduate so that they can fill out their Green Stamp application and get their EBT card. I mean, Mayor Bloomberg patting himself on the back going, hey, we graduated 66% of our kids last year. That's a failing grade, Mayor. It's a failing grade. And you tout it, whatever it was before, okay, maybe it's a slight improvement. But that's not a sales pitch for the soundness of the public educational system. Anyway, I'm Kevin McCullough. Many of these stations, Kevin McCullough Show tonight. We'll look forward to discussing more with you then. And then back here tomorrow on AFA Today, live from New York. See you then. Brian Fisher and Focal Point on the way next. Team Chicken.